Mr. President, let me begin by thanking you for convening this important debate. The foundational purpose of the United Nations was to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. At the core of this promise lies the principle of collective action to prevent mass atrocities and uphold the dignity and rights of all people. Yet, the international community's record in this regard has been one of repeated failure, defined by selective morality, strategic silence, and inaction. Nowhere is this failure more apparent than in Gaza. Over 55,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed in Israel's brutal military campaign. Over 100,000 have been injured. Entire neighborhoods have been flattened, hospitals destroyed, and humanitarian workers systematically targeted. Famine is being used as a weapon of war. And all of this is unfolding in full view of the world. Despite the daily carnage, despite the International Court of Justice's ruling, warning of a plausible genocide, and despite multiple urgent appeals for a ceasefire, including several resolutions adopted by both the General Assembly and the Security Council, meaningful action eludes us. This paralysis has enabled the aggression to persist unchecked, allowing atrocity crimes to unfold with complete impunity. The situation closer to our own borders is no different. In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, nearly 900,000 Indian troops have waged a campaign of terror for decades. Extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, arbitrary detentions, and systemic discrimination have become the norm. The rise of the hateful Hindutva ideology has further deepened this crisis, exposing Muslims and other minorities to pogroms, mob lynching, and openly proclaimed threats of genocide. The alarm bells sounded by credible international human rights bodies have been ignored, allowing these atrocities to continue unchecked. The blatant and illegal Indian aggression of 6-7 May 2025 is a stark reminder of this reality. India launched unprovoked attacks against Pakistan, deliberately targeting civilian areas, martyring 35 civilians, including 15 children. These acts were committed in blatant contravention of international humanitarian law and its core principles of distinction, proportionality, and precaution, causing grave and irreparable harm to innocent lives. In response, Pakistan acted with utmost restraint, limiting its measures exclusively to verified military targets. Mr. President, after 20 years, the so-called responsibility to protect stands exposed as a concept rendered meaningless by selective application, double standards, and politicization. Gaza, Kashmir, and countless other situations bear witness to its moral bankruptcy and to the urgent need for a credible, principled, and impartial approach to the protection of the world's most vulnerable. The so-called responsibility to protect, once trumpeted as a universal moral duty, now stands forgotten, a casualty of double standards and political convenience. Pushed with great zeal when useful, the doctrine has quietly been abandoned where its application is most urgent. Its selective invocation has turned what was meant to be a shield for the vulnerable into a smokescreen for inaction. Gaza lays bare this moral bankruptcy. Those who once sermonized about R2P now obstruct even the most basic calls for accountability. When principles are applied only where power permits, they are no longer principles at all, but merely instruments of politics. Mr. President, the international community has repeatedly failed to address the root causes of conflict, missing chances to act before violence takes hold. Instead of reacting to crisis, states and institutions must invest in early warning systems, inclusive policies, and legal protections that prevent marginalization and discrimination. Without tackling these structural drivers, the conditions for atrocity crimes will continue to thrive. Prevention is not optional. It is the most effective yet most neglected tool we have. The true test of our collective commitment will be measured not by words, but by concrete action, by how we respond when a crisis unfolds, by whether we have the courage to stand up to aggression regardless of its source, and by how faithfully we honor the principles upon which the United Nations was built. If R2P is to retain any credibility, it must be applied universally, not as an instrument of geopolitical calculation, but as a genuine commitment to human dignity and protection. I thank you, Mr. President.